Such an astounding array of irritating technical problems the past several days. We're live now, and I have an important guest to introduce to everyone.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. You sure? You can't hear me? Let me just make sure we've got everything set correctly here. Hang on, bear with me just 1 second. Let's make sure I've got everything set correctly.
This is kind of typical.
Yes. Okay. Now,
Okay.
That was my fault. You should hear me now.
I can hear you now.
There we go. I'd like to introduce everyone to a very special guest joining me for the first time today. You good? Michael? Can you hear me?
No, sound is gone now. I heard you fine, and my sound is completely gone.
Okay, let's do this. I'm going to call you right back, and we'll pick it up there. I'll call you right back.
I can see your lips moving, Jason, but
I'll call you
can't
right
hear
back.
you.
I'm going to call you right back. There are so many things that can go wrong in the world of live streaming, and I do not expect that there's any outside interference happening right now. I think it's much more likely that a combination of complicated computer things that need to interact. You good?
I'm good now. I can hear you loud and clear.
There we go.
Without headphones. So.
Good. So let me just make sure that all of our other stuff is going to work properly here, because right now it's not.
Notice that's kind of a trend with your communications. They don't seem to want to let you talk to anyone.
I don't think it has anything to do with outside interference. I think there are multiple extremely complicated things that I'm attempting to do, and there have been software updates to each of them within the past week that I thought I had the problems worked out, but it seems that they are persisting. So we're going to persevere through it, and I want to introduce everyone to Michael Barden. Michael, of course, is going to be speaking with us about gang stalking and how his life as a targeted individual has been affected by this practice. Michael, how are you today?
I'm doing okay. I've been going through a lot of stalking and harassment over the last couple of weeks at a heightened level because I do have court tomorrow. And it seems to be whenever I have something really important going on, the stalking and harassment ramps up the closer I get to that important event. So it's like they want me to be on edge, not be able to think about what I'm doing, and have a tough time with it. So I'm kind of having a tough time with that noise campaign kind of stuff, noise and stuff going on around the neighborhood where I haven't been getting a lot of sleep. So
I think I know what you're talking about. Again, I don't have direct evidence that I'm experiencing outside interference, but there is a lot of very strange computer performance issues going on here that seem pretty new.
Okay.
And again,
I was kind of afraid that when you did talk to me that you would have some new things kind of introduced into your life that I'm hoping don't happen.
I don't think it has to do with you. I don't think it has to do with you. I am still convinced that this is a combination of a software update to iOS, a software update to the streaming software, and a software update to Vimeo that all happened within days of each other. But I am having really extremely poor internet performance, whereas nothing has changed about that. So perhaps...
We are too, Jason. Here, actually, my son works for me. We have a business, and he just came upstairs and said, "Dad, is your internet working?" Mine just went out. Kathy's internet just went out. And usually we have no issue with that until I'm speaking online with somebody or doing...
It's interesting. It is.
Yeah, timing is impeccable in my life. It's
I want to get a screen share going for you, like everyone can observe with their own eyes the incredibly slow performance that we're having here. This stuff all normally works very quickly. I have a 300 megabit per second internet connection here, which for people who may not know is very fast. But let's just,
Yeah.
we'll work with this stuff and we'll get right into our conversation. I do want people who are watching to know that they can find Michael on Twitter and they can communicate with him there. He is at Michael Barden 8. He's a father. He's a 14-year Air Force veteran. He's a business owner and he's a targeted individual, and he's got his own YouTube channel that you can get to right there from the Twitter page. And it's interesting to me, Michael. We see a lot of military veterans on Crowdsource the Truth. Thank you for sacrificing your time and elements of your life to defend this country and to do what you knew would be the right thing. I'm sorry that you've been subjected to all of this. You've also been a firefighter in your life, isn't that correct?
Yes, sir. I was a crash fire rescue firefighter for 5 years at the 144th Fighter Wing in Fresno, California, which is Central California, right in the middle. And that base actually had the active alert of the entire West Coast. So if anybody came into that no-fly zone and they did not identify themselves, NORAD in Colorado, but I would contact the 144th Fighter Wing, and within 6 or 7 minutes, the pilots that were asleep in their beds would be in the fighter aircraft and to the coast to intercept whatever aircraft. And I worked directly with those pilots as a crash fire rescue firefighter. And we did other things. We worked mutual aid with the city, responded to wildland fires, auto accidents, and stuff like that. Did a lot of stuff. So I did that for 5 years. And that was considered state active duty. So I worked for the Air National Guard on the federal side. My full-time job was considered state active duty. I think there was 2 fire departments in the state of California that were state active duty. So we were full-time paid firefighters, worked 48 hours on, 48 hours off. Wow. And that was my life.
So you're really a guy who has dedicated a tremendous amount of his time to helping other people through some of the most altruistic sorts of things that anyone can do. Being a firefighter obviously requires extreme bravery and putting the safety of others over your own life, strangers, people that you don't even know. Now, you've sent me a bunch of material, Michael, but I apologize. I've been struggling here just trying to get us online in time for our live stream here, and I thought I had one of the problems licked, but it seems no. So let me go to some of these documents that you've sent. Talk for a moment about this. Well, you want me to share all of these things, right?
Well, I just thought that it would be handy to have some of those available, so if something came up and you wanted to maybe scroll through some of it, we could talk about some of those things. Actually, one thing I did to prepare for the show, I wrote something out here just to, actually, I try not to read from a script ever. I try to just talk from my memories and my own experiences, but being a targeted individual is all-encompassing, and there is so much information to put out there to try to explain this, but it gets overwhelming, and your timeline starts to get messed up. You forget exact dates. You'll forget information, because when something happens every single day of your life, only so much will fit in your brain. I don't care who you are. Some of that information is going to come out.
I do want to pause you for a second, Michael, because I can detect from the audio quality that Skype is reducing your image and audio quality to compensate for a very poor internet connection. Now, you're in Arizona. I presume you have a cable router or some sort of high-speed connection at your house. Do you know offhand what type of internet connection you've got there?
I don't know what speed it is, but I do know that when I'm not doing one of these videos or communicating with somebody regarding this topic, we never have an issue. We have an eBay store, and we list items all day online. We click the button, page pops up, no problem, and we never have an issue with it. It only goes down at specific times. The timing is impeccable.
Right. Well, it just came back the moment we said that. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually in Avondale, Arizona. It's Avondale, and it's just on the west side of Phoenix. It takes me about 10 minutes to get into downtown Phoenix from here.
Okay. So let's start to talk about your situation and explain to people what you've been experiencing.
Okay. Now it's hard to start out. Now, there are different types of targeting.
And I believe I've been the lucky recipient of two types of targeting. There's a long-term, lifetime targeting. Some people are born into this, like you hear of the satanic ritual abuse, trauma-based mind control. So these are long-term, slow, methodical, traumatic events that happen throughout your life that are so covert that you don't realize that it's actually that you're being manipulated and managed and being put through these traumatic events until you are become aware later on. If you're lucky enough to do that, a lot of people don't ever know that they're in something like this until they're committed into a mental facility or they act out. Or I was lucky enough to start researching this, understand what was going on. So I came to the conclusion that that's been going on with me my entire life. Now, I believe that the second type of targeting that I've gone through is the current, some people call it COINTELPRO 2.0, that through the FISA court, that most of the other targeted individuals that I communicate with and network with are in right now. So some people seem to have just gone through the satanic ritual abuse, long-term trauma-based mind control, and some people just seem to be going through this newer type surveillance, stalking, and harassment.
But both of them are designed to basically gaslight the target and make that person go crazy, act out in anger or frustration, or do something that will allow the police or whoever to determine that you're mentally unstable and a danger to yourself or the public, and then incarcerate you and basically take you out of circulation, correct?
Absolutely, and make you look like not a very credible person.
Right.
You start, and then there's actually. Do you mind if I read this little thing that I wrote just as a?
Please do. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay. And this just will give the people that don't know anything about this, it's just kind of a ground level idea of what's going on. And when I talk about some of this, it'll make a little more sense. Okay. Targeted individuals, victims of organized stalking, harassment, and slander, otherwise known as gang stalking, contract stalking, or cause stalking. There are many different reasons a person can become targeted. They can be whistleblowers, victims of abuse. They can be targeted for revenge, political enemies, government dissidents, and some are randomly selected for non-consensual human experimentation. Now, if I read something here and you do want to stop me and ask me about what I'm reading, feel free, or
you got it,
because I can keep moving on. It can even be generational, so a person may be targeted from birth. Like I was saying, the satanic ritual abuse. I believe different intelligence agencies such as the FBI, NSA, DHS, and the CIA are responsible for facilitating programs like this. I also believe the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA court, is utilized to covertly add targets to this growing list. Now, when I say that the FBI, NSA, DHS are facilitating this, I don't think that the entire FBI is corrupt. I don't think the entire Department of Homeland Security is corrupt. This is compartmentalized.
Right.
And there are people at the top that really know the reasons why this is going on, and then they've got the ground level troops, agents that are facilitating these things with basically bad information.
Well, and we should also say, Michael, as a person who's been in the military and been in the fire department, you're very used to having one of these roles where you are a cog in a machine, and as that cog, you understand that independent thinking isn't conducive to carrying out the mission because you don't have all the information, and you are very conditioned in those roles that you answer to orders, don't ask questions, and carry out your role. So if someone in the FBI or any of these agencies says this particular person is a problem, they're doing X, Y, and Z, they're a domestic terrorist, they are your target, the agents will not question that. They just act and carry out their duty, and they would expect a suspect to deny these allegations and act like that.
Exactly, you're exactly right, and that's where I started to understand how this whole program works and how it is compartmentalized from being in the military and understanding how government operates. And I wasn't just a firefighter in the Air Force. I did that for 5 years full time. I was getting ready to completely leave the Air Force, and they said, well, hey, we know you're a photographer. Would you like to go into
public affairs, journalism. It wasn't public affairs at the time. It was just, they called it the photo shop. I said, well, okay. So they sent me to the Defense Information School at Fort Meade, Maryland, actually, where the NSA, one of the largest NSA facilities, is.
Really?
And, yeah, I studied at the Defense Information School, became a multimedia journalist. So I was under the impression I was just going to be a photographer. I was told, you'll get a job as a photographer. It turned out that wasn't the case. I learned photo, video, and broadcast journalism, and I ended up doing all of that for the Air National Guard as well. And I was a traditional Guard member, which means you do your 1 week in the month and then a couple weeks, TDY or deployment, stuff like that. Well, after 9/11 happened, there became all kinds of special orders that I could go on, where I could work out at the base, work on different projects. I would travel to Tyndall Air Force Base to document dissimilar aircraft dogfighting, where they go out and F-22s would simulate dogfight with the F-16, see how they do. They would send up F-4 drones, shoot them out of the sky, into the ocean. The Navy would go pick them up. I went to Operation Lightning Strike in Northern California with the Army engineers, where they were fighting fires up there, documenting that, giving them some pointers on some firefighting stuff, since that's what I did for the previous 5 years. I went on all kinds of these trips, TDY, deployment, stuff like that. I've been over to the United Arab Emirates at El Dhafra Air Force Base.
Really?
During Operation Noble Eagle, when we were helping control the no-fly zones over there. Yeah, that was as a firefighter, actually. So I've traveled a lot. I was, so that's how I was in 14 years, 5 years fire department, and then 10 years, about 10 years as a journalist.
And just from what you're describing right now, Michael, you've been involved in some extremely sensitive and, I would presume, classified areas, operations. Is it possible that you acted in some way, or said something, or did something, or heard something that caused people to be concerned that you might release information that they don't want released?
Highly possible. Highly possible. Everywhere I went, even when I was at the Fire Academy, I've always just liked taking photos.
Oh.
And I like to document what's going on. So I would take photos of us training. I would, I've got a scrapbook downstairs of my whole fire training at San Angelo, Lewis F. Garland Fire Academy in San Angelo, Texas. I've got, took photos when I was over in the UAE. I did have a secret clearance. Actually, I've got it sitting right over here on the desk. It's about that thick for the lowest level clearance that you can get. It's standard Form 86, and it's it's secret clearance. But I never did anything intentionally to try to gather intel or disseminate intel. I was just a person that liked to take photos and talk to people and talk about information. So maybe they could have taken that. In this targeting program, basically anything you do or say is perverted and twisted and turned into something that your intentions, that you did, what you did not intend it to be. And yeah, I could have, I showed you that training certificate that I had earlier that happened 6 days before 9/11.
I'm looking for that in the emails that you sent, and I'm just having a little bit of a difficult time of finding it. Why don't you show that to everybody, because that's very interesting.
Okay, let me, it is...
It's a document that indicates that you were involved in a training simulation on September the 5th, 2001, right? Show everybody that image.
Here we go. I've got all kinds of documents here. So this is Emergency Management Training Consultants hereby certifies that Michael J. Barden has successfully completed a specialized training program in Incident Command. And what Incident Command is basically when there's a catastrophic incident that requires triage and multiple departments and agencies coming together to handle that incident. You need to have a meeting ahead of time to make sure that the mayor's there, the police chief, the fire chief, everybody in public services that would get together, and EMS that would get together and handle a catastrophe, basically. So I went through this class, and everybody that I just spoke of was there from Fresno, and then we held the class.
EMS from Fresno, you say?
Fresno, yeah, Fresno, California. Clovis is my home. Clovis and Fresno connect, kind of like Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Let's see the image. Show everybody the image. Michael, hello? Very interesting timing on the Skype freeze. Michael, can you hear me? Michael. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I don't know what to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, people watching the program right now. Michael, can you hear me? It's a very unusual performance that I'm experiencing here when we talk about EMS people from Fresno. Michael, I'll try you back. Very curious, indeed. Very, very curious. Who do we know that's an EMS person that likes to make YouTube videos? Oh, Michael's unavailable, it says. Wow. It's very interesting. Let's see if we can get him back here. The document Michael was about to show us is undoubtedly going to pique people's interest with regard to what happened on September 11th. I don't know what happened. Michael, it says, is unavailable according to Skype. Oh boy, I really do apologize to everyone for what's been going on the past several days. I do not have a good explanation for it. People have a lot of suggestions. I don't know what is going on there on Michael's end. Let me try another method of getting a hold of Michael. I think I do know someone who works in EMS and might be near Fresno, California. Let's see if we can reach Michael through another method here. Boy, I know it's not that thrilling to watch a live stream that isn't operating properly, and I do apologize for that. I don't know if it's Skype that's gone out or Michael's whole computer. See if we can reach him through another method. It still says last seen, so I don't know if he's on Skype there. Michael was going to tell us about the gang stalking that he has experienced for the past several years. In our initial conversation before this interview, I didn't quite have all the details of his extensive background, including the security clearance and all of that. So it definitely does seem that Michael may in fact have information and he may have seen things that people don't want him sharing with the general public. And when he started talking about, oh, there we go, maybe he's back. Let's try something different that maybe will avoid the problems that we're having. It says active now, but I'm not sure if he's getting my messages. Michael, are you there? I do apologize, everyone. Anything? Try him again on Skype. Michael?
Hey,
okay.
There you are.
Okay. Hey, let's keep going with this, and if anything goes wrong, we can try that other thing that I emailed you, but for now, we'll stick with this. Do any ideas what just happened?
No, I don't. I have no idea. I don't use Skype that often, but it was pretty impeccable timing as soon as I mentioned the software class that I was in.
The what class?
It's called Software, S-O-F-T-W-A-R. Chuck DeCaro coined the term, and he came up with this idea, and it basically is using media to portray an alternative reality to the enemy.
Huh.
And you can look it up online. He's still got YouTube videos talking about software, and I really didn't even pay that much attention to that because it was kind of over my head at the time. I was just more into photo, video, graphics, and all that stuff. And the other thing we were going to do on this team was, and actually what we did during this class was we watched videos of people over in the Middle East setting up IEDs and blowing up vehicles, blowing up our troops, the IEDs. We figured out, because we're video people and we just have a good eye, and you can understand that, and you can watch something and you can see little details in videos and movies that other people might not. So they put together a class, a group of us, that we went through these videos, and we noticed some of the timing of the explosions that were going off. We noticed they were using telephone poles as a marker to set the ID off. There was just a lot of things that we learned about what they were doing. And he even told us, he said, man, you guys are good. You figured this out in like 45 minutes. The CIA didn't figure it out that fast.
Wow.
And it was Army and Air Force, joint force. We were at the Army Guard base down the road. And of course, we were pretty proud of ourselves. You know, who wouldn't be? And they said, okay, so if you're selected for this team, you guys are going to have a little briefcase. You're going to have a computer. It's going to have video editing software. You're going to be in direct contact with us. And when we have an incident, you're going to be sent that video. You're going to go through the video and comment back to us on it. And we'll get together as a group to identify what happened, where, when, how. And I thought, man, that sounds great. I want to have a special briefcase, and be part of this and help save our troops' lives.
Right.
And so I didn't get selected for that team, and I was pretty let down. I really wanted to be on that team. It would have been a full-time job, been a good opportunity for my career.
Right.
And, basically, right after that is when things started getting really weird in my life.
So let me pause you there for a second. So you're describing a scenario where you are basically participating in what you might call war games, soft war education, where media and social media and video are being used to create an alternative reality, to basically make people think something is going on when it actually isn't.
Absolutely.
And you identified in videos patterns and things that indicated to you that, wait a minute, this is not what you're telling us, this is someone using, am I understanding that correctly?
Actually, there were two different things. He was explaining soft war to us, but there were two different parts of that training class that we were going through, and the second part was going to be real-time identification and intel, basically, of these videos, because anytime Al-Qaeda or ISIS or anybody, they set off an IED, they usually post that video somewhere, and then they take responsibility for it, saying, we did this.
So
that's
real-time identification of, here's a video, is this video authentic, or is this an example of soft war? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying, doing my best.
No, and I'm sorry, because I'm trying to understand. It sounds like a complex exercise. But so when you say you were able to identify that they're using telephone poles as markers and things like that, what was it that you were identifying there that maybe was not immediately obvious?
How they were hitting their target with the IED. How they with timing and like the marker, when a vehicle's driving by, right as that vehicle is about to pass that telephone pole, that's when they would hit the button. They would know when to hit that button. They would film from different angles. They would always be from a certain angle. There was just a lot of different things, and I don't even know if I should talk about a lot more of the specifics in that. It's not classified what we're talking about, but we just identified a lot of important things that could save lives.
Okay. Okay. Let me ask you something. Now, you see the screen share, right? This photo composite I'm showing?
I do. I don't recognize that guy.
Okay, the audience cannot see it, but that's what I wanted to ask you, if you've ever seen this individual.
He does not look familiar to me, no.
Okay. So you start talking about the Air Force and EMS, it certainly raises some questions. Yeah,
definitely. And there's actually, let me I kind of went off on a tangent with that.
Yeah.
Let me finish.
Let's see that document about 9/11. I think everyone is very interested in seeing that training document, if you can show it real quick. Just the image that you showed me.
Tell me if you can see it, okay?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll just move up slowly. Can you see the date there?
I see it says on this 5th day of September, move it, yeah, 2001, yes. I see it. And look at the image. It's certainly suggestive of foreknowledge of something happening with a commercial airliner exploding, isn't it?
It is, and now from what I've talked to with different, with other firefighters and different people around the United States, they had similar training a week before 9/11 as well.
Really?
Yeah, it seems to be standard in a lot of these mass casualty events. There is training exercise directly before the mass casualty event occurs. Just something I've noticed along the way as I've been researching this stuff.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry, I have a tough time going through this. It brings back a lot of...
It's okay.
Yeah.
Take the time you need, Michael.
Okay. Let me go ahead and finish reading this about
please.
targeted individuals and gang stalking. So I left off with, I also believe the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA Court, is utilized to covertly add targets to the growing list. Now, I can't prove a lot of this because a lot of it is so classified. FOIA requests aren't granted under the FISA Court, but I've done so much research and talked to so many people that are former NSA, FBI, DHS employees.
Really?
Yeah, and actually I'd like to talk about a couple of them so people can just have some names to research to understand what I'm talking about more too.
Sure.
From what I gather, it only takes 2 citizens to report a suspected terrorist to DHS. So DHS has a Blue campaign. It's a website that you can go on and report human trafficking, report a suspected terrorist, and I believe that's one of the ways that they facilitate this. So, the 3 criteria that people need to, that the FISA Court needs in order to put somebody on this terrorist watch list: the person must be a journalist, a human rights activist, and have contact with others outside of the country. Okay, so basically anyone posting on social media about things like 9/11 or government corruption and has 1 or 2 friends living out the United States can be put through the FISA Court. I mean, that's how they can. There you go. Now I called these guys. I called the Blue campaign last week actually to report human trafficking, because what the targeted individual program is human trafficking. There are compartmentalized groups that are paid in one way or the other to organize and stalk and harass targeted individuals. The lady told me to call the local police department. I told her that they wouldn't do anything. She told me to call the sheriff's department. I called the sheriff's department. I've got both of those phone calls on my YouTube channel. Everybody passes the buck. They say call this guy, and then they say call this guy, call this guy, call this guy. So, okay. So there are many government agencies, corporations, community watch groups, and other compartmentalized groups taking part. Groups like FBI InfraGard. Now, on one of your videos, I heard you talking to a lady that just InfraGard was not too long ago.
Well, what did you think about that? Sorry, but what did you think about that lady who was talking about InfraGard?
On your video.
Yeah, she said she was in it, and then after 9/11, it sort of changed in a way that made her realize it was no longer for her, and she left. Probably
because she observes the Constitution and understands that it's unconstitutional for 2 or more people to get together and stalk and harass somebody.
Actually, to get together.
I'm sorry.
It's unconstitutional for 2 or more people to get together and do what?
Stalk, harass another individual. And actually, I have I thought I was a little more organized here, Jason.
Don't worry about it, Michael. It's all good. I think people are very interested in what you're discussing, and it's certainly timely. It's, I think, important to reiterate that you and I have had very minimal conversations prior to right now. You've emailed me a bit and told me the general story, but I'm learning quite a lot about you and your situation right now, and it's incredibly pertinent to what is going on in a larger sense. And the fact that you said that journalists are specifically targeted by this program, that's extremely troubling. That only 2 people can report an individual to the Department of Homeland Security and immediately get them under surveillance and harassment.
And not one FISA request was denied last year. 1,000 and something FISA requests were issued, not one was denied. I'm having some
yes,
issues.
I see that. You are. Let me deactivate the screen share here and just try to devote as much performance to Skype as we're able. But it really, I mean, this is stuff I'm doing all the time with virtually all my guests, including a portable hotspot. Michael, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
The performance is so poor. Michael, let's disconnect from this and hit that link that I sent you in the text message on Skype. Is that all right?
Yes, I'll do my best to
Let's
find
try
it.
that.
Oh, boy.
Performing so badly. It's really remarkable. Unbelievable. What? All right, let's see if we can get Michael back through this other method that maybe is, I don't know, less susceptible to interference. All we can do is try something different. The whole performance of this computer is absolutely terrible right now. Okay, I think I just heard you there. Something unbelievable. I just can't get this thing to do anything. I'm gonna quit this. I'm done with Skype. Somebody may be doing something with Skype. This says connecting. All right, let's see if we can get Michael here. Oh. It says connecting, but it's, I mean, we got like the worst performance imaginable. It is very frustrating. That's their goal. Connection lost, it says. Are you connected to the internet? What? Everything is going wrong here. Now it's back to saying connecting. Let's see if we can get Michael on here. Michael, are you there? I don't know what to do. Michael? Michael? Do you hear me? I hear you.
Okay.
Okay, I can hear you. Are you there?
I can hear.
Boy, it's so bad. It's even worse than it was on Skype.
I hear you.
You hear me, right?
Inter-
It's so bad, it's crazy. This is even worse than Skype. Okay, here, and now it crashed. Great. All right, we're going to try one other thing, and if it doesn't
Yeah, I
work,
can hear you now.
but this page is now saying that it's crashed, so something's wrong. Are you there? That page just went away. Really, just crazy. Just crazy. We're going to try one more thing here. I'm going to try one more thing. I don't know what to say. Yeah, all right, let's get back to Skype. I don't know. I mean, the computer is just going so slow, I can barely launch anything. It's unbelievable. Michael, I'm sorry. I can't even get to Skype here. I don't have Google Earth running. I don't have videos playing. I am doing a fraction of the things I am normally doing on this computer during a live stream, and the performance is just useless. Totally. I don't understand what's going on. I'm trying to get Skype back up here, Michael. Just bear with me if you're listening. I really apologize. Will it launch? It says it's just spinning. We're gonna patiently wait here. Okay, here's Skype finally back on. I just don't see how this is gonna possibly work, but let's try it. It's so interesting. So interesting. I mean, these are all different applications. Could all of these technical problems be not related? I don't know. Okay. I cannot hear you at all now. Can you hear me? I don't hear you at all, man. This is just a disaster. I mean, this is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Something is going on. I mean, there seems to be little doubt in that. And people will say, oh, the speakers are muted. People will have all kinds of advice for me, but this is the way Skype always launches. Can you hear me, Michael? I'm not even moving on there. Okay, you're moving. You can hear me. I can't hear you, and I've changed nothing about this. Can't hear you though, my friend. Let's see. Can we hear you now? No, we still don't hear you. Oh. Michael, I'm so sorry to do this to you, but there's obviously an overwhelming array of technical problems right now that are preventing this live stream from proceeding. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. I cannot hear you. Say something. Count to 10. Cannot hear you. Call you right back. Let me call you back. Not seen anything like this before. Let's try audio only. Michael, can you hear me? I don't hear you, man. I don't know. Michael, let's end this stream. We'll schedule another call. Are you there? No, nothing. I don't know what to say, man. I got some stuff to look into here. I don't know why this would be happening. Do I have your phone number? I believe I do. Let me call you on the phone, just the regular phone. I'll call you back. Do me a favor, text me your phone number right here in Skype. No one can see it, and I'll call you on the regular phone. I don't know what is going on. It's so bizarre. Let's see if this does anything. Okay, Michael, are you there? Nothing. I hear nothing. Okay, we're going to end the stream. We're going to reset all of this equipment. I'm going to call Michael on the phone. We're going to try to figure out what's going on. But it's amazing how you start talking about certain things and these coincidences happen. I have no actual evidence that this broadcast is being interfered with by any outside force, but it sure is strange. All right, everyone, I'm going to be back, hopefully, in an hour and 15 minutes, back with Angela Power Disney talking about MK Ultra, and let's see if we can make this equipment work. Thanks for watching, everybody. The live button. and I think it may resume. Let me just check this here. I really do apologize, Michael, both to you and to all of our viewers. Let's see if we can overcome this issue, and if we see it carrying on here on YouTube, we will continue. Can you still hear me?
I can. It's got some interference, but I can deal with that.
Boy, there is a lot of interference. This is usually better than Skype. Let me make sure that we're going out live here. Are people still getting us on YouTube? I don't know. Can people hear us live on YouTube? I'm back to terrible performance. Okay, I think we're back. I think we're back, Michael. Okay. So what do you think about what just happened there?
This is something I deal with on a daily basis, not just with video conversations, with phone calls, through my online business, social media. Anytime I'm making some kind of progress or coming out with some real information that these folks don't want me to talk about, everything shuts down. I have to retry. It takes me hours to get everything set back up, and then it's just something I deal with on a daily basis. It's part of the electronic harassment that I'm going to speak about in this thing that I wrote here. So if I can, I'll just get back to that. So I left off with the InfraGard, which is part of the FBI. And that lady that left the InfraGard, there was probably a good reason for her to do that, because of what they do and the way they're carrying out is organized stalking. So groups like FBI, InfraGard, Neighborhood Watch, homeowners associations, Civil Air Patrol, and DHS Citizens Corps, police department, fire department, EMS, which is emergency medical services, medical doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, postal employees, and other people who we are supposed to trust. All of these people, and I'm not saying everybody in all of these professions are involved, but certain people within these groups that I just said, we believe have what's called a national security letter that's issued to them by whichever intel agency is responsible for this, which tells them they basically have to cooperate with the program that they're being told about. They have to sign a non-disclosure, so they can never say anything. And if they don't cooperate, then they will be, oh, I'm sorry, I left out attorneys, which is a big deal. They have to cooperate with this program. If they don't, they'll be disbarred. They'll have their medical license taken away. They will ruin their life as much as our lives have been ruined. And they see what happens to a target, and they do not want that to happen to them. So it's one of those things, even if they are a person with high integrity, they fear for their life, they fear for their livelihood, they fear for their children. So these people take part in this. And so how do they get all these people to take part in the targeting program? I'm just reading here kind of what I just explained. Through slander, money, gifts, promotions, and fear. Imagine a person showing up to your homeowners association meeting wearing a nice suit, whips out an FBI, CIA, or DHS identification. Everyone in the group is going to listen to what they have to say. Right? They tell the group that there's some kind of bad person in the area, and they're going to be needed to help keep an eye on them. The group is given a small, seemingly insignificant task to help watch the target, and not told about the rest of the harassment and torture the target is going through. It wouldn't be very hard to talk the group into helping the agency carry out the standard operating procedures given to them to keep the community safe. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but we're getting really bad breakup. I want to see if there's anything I can do to address that. Hang on just a moment. Let's see if I have any ability to control that in here. I think if I Let me make the video quality a little lower, and perhaps that'll give more bandwidth. Oh, you know what? This is good. I'm going to kill my camera, and I think that might dedicate more bandwidth to you. Let's see, how does that sound? Oh, that's better, for sure.
Okay, good. Okay, so there are different types of targeting individual experiences. And now I haven't experienced all of these personally, but some of the directed energy weapons and some of the technology, like when people hear voices, they call that V2K. I haven't received that, thankfully. Okay, so the different types of targeting individual experiences. First one, gang stalking. This is the biggest thing in my life. I am gang stalked everywhere I go. I cannot leave the house without being gang stalked. And now part of the gang stalking is home invasions. So when you're going away from your house, they enter your home illegally. Items will be stolen or moved in home. When I say that, I come home and my furniture has been moved from the place that it was originally sitting when I left the house. I like vintage and antique furniture, as you can see behind me. I have a mid-century modern lamp that sits on my table next to my couch downstairs. I got home one time, that lamp is sitting in the middle of my studio when I return home.
Do you have any video surveillance in the house?
Absolutely, 100%. They surveil you 24/7.
No, do you have your own? Do you have your own video surveillance to see what's going on in the house?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, the audio is breaking up again. I said, do you have your own video surveillance in the house to observe these invasions?
I did, actually. I don't right now because it was worthless. I set up a 12-camera surveillance system, cameras everywhere in my home, and there was no way that anybody could get past that with all the angles I put the cameras at. So when I'd come home and I would check out my surveillance footage, there would be 5 or 10 minutes completely black out on my video surveillance footage.
Wow.
And
you're freezing again, Michael. Damn it. This is crazy, man. Whoop. Connection interrupted. This tool is specifically designed for low bandwidth connections. Can you hear me, Michael? We're going to try one more thing. We're going to try one more thing here. Let me... Michael, kill your camera and let's see what that does. And let's just do audio only. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm just not sure how to do that.
You should see at the bottom of the screen says something says, yes, there you go. Try that. Let's hear you speak.
Okay.
Better.
How about now? Check
Much
1,
better.
2.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to keep going with this as much as I can.
Yes.
So the home invasions, items stolen or moved in home. I have had items stolen from my home, and I actually had a drawing here that I did that I wanted to show you through video, but people can picture it in their mind, I guess. I had a drawing that I did at the Defense Information School that was a graphite drawing. I was really proud of it. I did a good job. I'd never had to do anything like that before. And it was on the wall. When I lived in California, I had an antique store. It was hanging on the wall in my office. I got to my office, it had disappeared. I hadn't seen it for years. I thought it was gone forever. I get home. Here now, I've moved from California to Oklahoma and then to Arizona. So this is several years later after this drawing disappears. I get home, and I'm looking for a piece of art that's sold on eBay, and I'm looking through the art drawer. Well, I don't keep any of my personal items, only items that are for sale. That drawing was sitting right on top of the items that I had to look through to find the piece of art that's sold. That was 5 or 6 years after it had disappeared. That's part of the gaslighting that occurs. They'll take small items, small enough to make you sound like you're crazy if you do report that these little things are missing. You know, imagine you call the police and say, somebody's breaking into my house, moving my furniture around, and stealing little items like my fire department jacket and my drawings.
Yeah,
how
they're
crazy
not going to do anything.
If you do that.
Yeah.
So that's part of the gaslighting. So then
You also have on the street while you're driving harassment by public services, police, fire, and EMS, city vehicles, etc. So when I'm driving down the street, a police cruiser will, and this has slowed down for me recently, but a police cruiser will come up beside me, and at the exact moment they're going by me, they'll start going code 3, which is lights and sirens. And this will happen everywhere I go for a couple weeks at a time. There'll be a fire truck that I just happened to be at the intersection, the fire truck drives by, fires up the lights and sirens. And this is to sensitize you, to traumatize you, and to try to get you to explain that, hey, you're being followed by police and fire department, which are the good guys, right? Why would they do that? I also, while I'm driving in traffic, I will be surrounded by a certain color of cars. For me, and it's different for different targeted individuals, they'll pick different colors, but for me it's been white cars and red cars. And I actually have a graphic here that shows percentages of vehicles on a national average, and red is only 11%. So I'll be at a stoplight and there will be 10 red cars all the way around me. I turn right, red cars will be following me down the street. So from all of the places I go to while I'm driving through town, going to the post office, going to the grocery store, I'm surrounded by red cars. So I researched this, and I learned that there's an FBI tactic called the floating box. And it's how they surveil people with the FBI floating box. But I'm definitely getting the auto color sensitization. So, and it'll also be white vehicles, which is white vehicles make up 16% of the national average here in the United States, and you know, which there's no way. And I've got videos of this documenting. I got smart a couple times, and I looped through a parking lot, came back around, and I documented about 50 cars that were driving by. Half of them were white, and a large percentage were red. It was highly, highly improbable that that would just happen as a coincidence.
And that's on your YouTube channel. Daily.
I'm sorry?
That's on your YouTube channel, right?
Yes, yes, it is. And it's very tough to document this because, you know, as soon as you start filming, they're wise to it. You know, they have access to your phone. They can see you start filming, and they can give these people the signal however they communicate. It seems like they communicate through an app on their cell phone, to me. Everybody, when we go out into stores, there will be people that will follow us around in the store. I'm at a counter, and I'm looking at some. So yesterday, I took my daughter to get some clothes. We went to Goodwill. There will be a guy on his cell phone, staring at his cell phone, and he'll be on the opposite side of the aisle, just peering through the rack that we're looking at and just staring at you, looking at their phone. And, you know, that could happen. Some people might be interested in what you look like. You might look familiar or something. But when it happens on a daily basis for a year, it is not a coincidence anymore. It's organized stalking. And then there's many, many other tactics that they use while driving. Actually, I think I wrote a couple of those down. So, and now here's what we're dealing with right now, Jason. Electronic through social media, online business, phone calls, video communications, emails, spyware, and other methods. I found 2 forms of spyware on my phone, one called Digital Watchdog and one called Fair Played.
How did you find that, and what type of phone do you have, Android or iPhone?
I have an iPhone, and you can go in, and I forget exactly how to do it. I'm really not the most tech-savvy person in the world, but I did a little bit of research on how to find programs that have been loaded on your phone and go through the history. And as I'm going through the history, I find Digital Watchdog and Fairplayed.h2, I believe it is. And I don't know how to remove them, but I have screenshots of that spyware that's on my phone, and I researched as much as I could to try to get them off, and I just can't do it. I don't know how to do it. Let's see here. Okay, so then I'm kind of covering something I already went over. I'm just going to keep reading through this. Vehicular stalking or auto mobbing, so color sensitization, custom license plates. I noticed that on one of your photos you said, I found Bin Laden, and it was BINL10, Bin.
Yeah.
This will happen with me on a daily basis. So just as a small example, I go to drop my daughter off at her friend Rainy's house. Rainy's a very uncommon name. I leave the neighborhood to go to the grocery store. A black car hauls ass by me, whips in front of me, and they've got a license plate that says Rainey. So basically,
How could they do that so quickly?
that is the $64 million question. The only thing that I can think of that would be um, possible is they're using artificial intelligence for predictive learning and an algorithm to notify these people immediately. Or if my daughter tells me in a half an hour, will you take me over to Rainey's house? Well, if they're listening to my phone and they understand what's going on, and my girlfriend says, hey, can we go to the grocery store after that? They know, hey, we're going to drop my daughter off at her friend's house, and then we're going to the grocery store after that. And really, I understand why some people think that this is spiritual or demonic, because some of the things that they do are so unbelievable that you really can't wrap your head around how they do it. And I've kind of stopped trying to figure out how the technology works and the processes and procedures that they use to do this. And I've gone on to just trying to get the word out and try to follow the money and see who is responsible, because I do believe that when funding stops for this stops.
Who's funding it?
I'm sorry?
Who is funding this?
Ooh, well, we're missing $21 to $23 trillion from the Federal Reserve. And a lot of that money, I believe, is used in what are called SAPs or USAPs, unacknowledged special access programs. So that's a program that nobody can talk about. The UFO stuff, the mind control, a lot of the kind of out there things that seem like they're out of a movie, but they're actually going on and being funded through our government. And I keep saying this is funded under FISA, and the more I think about that, I think they're just using the FISA court to facilitate putting people into the program, and I can't put my finger on exactly where the money is coming from. That's one of the biggest issues is, we can't figure out who's funding it, why they're funding it. Okay, so one of the other parts of the psychological operation, and I think I didn't mention this, but this is a PSYOP. It is a psychological operation. We have been, our country has intel bases all over the country, all over the world, and we are involved in psychological operations. I saw a uniform patch one time that said something to the effect of, we go after the brain because it's the thing that never heals. Something like that. I'll try to find that patch and I'll send you a picture of it.
Michael, let me pause you for a second, because I think you are peeling back the first layer of a very stinky onion that I would like to saute with you. And I think what we need to do is evaluate some of the technical things that are going on. And I think we need to schedule you to come back, certainly for another broadcast, if not a series of broadcasts, because this is an incredibly interesting topic. And
okay, there's something I do want to tell you, though, before we stop talking today.
Absolutely.
That is very important in my life personally, and I'm not doing this just for me. I'm doing this for the entire targeted individual community, people that are being illegal.
You've got a court date tomorrow.
I have a court date tomorrow, and as I realized in April, May of 2017 last year, what I was in. I knew that the events that were taking place in my life were just too surreal to be coincidental life. The events that happened in somebody's life. So I started researching FBI surveillance tactics, this and that. And I found a video of Karen Melton Stewart that worked for the NSA for 28 years. She was a linguist for the NSA, passed a psychological evaluation. Every year she worked for them, and is responsible for saving thousands of lives through her intel. And she is a targeted individual. She started, excuse me, she started explaining in one of her videos what was happening to her, how people were following her into her stores. She was being surveilled 24/7. And as she was explaining it, it dawned on me, oh my God, this is what I'm going through.
there are other people that are going through this nonsense. So I started researching. I started contacting. In November, I decided he taught me how to be a journalist, a video journalist at that. So I'm going to document this. I'm going to use my skills to document what's going on and shed some light on it. So in a convenience store, one of the officers that was using some of the tactics that the conversation, I turned around my camera, just started interviewing
Totally
her.
losing you, man. You're breaking up again, and we've got trolls coming into the chat here saying all kinds of things that are obviously stupid.
That's normal for me.
Yeah.
That as I started asking this police officer questions about this, she was asking me, laughing. There's nothing I can do about it. The FBI. You know, I said I've called them. You know, if you have this situation going on in your city, shouldn't you have some kind of concern and be able to run that up the chain of command? Because we'll listen to police officers and public service people more than the public. And she basically go online, fill out a report, get the ball rolling. And that video is actually on my channel if anybody wants to watch that. So with the timing that these people have, I was set and arrested almost 3 weeks later, almost 3 weeks later after that, on January 4th. It was a large street theater skit. And since I have court tomorrow, I don't even want to talk about the details of that at this exact moment. But basically, guy pulled a firearm on me, followed me to my home. I ran from him through the neighborhood. The next thing I know, the police are after me and arrest me for aggravated assault with a firearm, when that's exactly what the guy just did to me. And I just need to stop there. So that was on January 4th, to Maricopa County Jail, stayed overnight.
Maricopa County. Where is that?
Yeah. Well, it's Maricopa County is the county we live in here that Phoenix is in, but it's basically the jail.
Oh, right, Sheriff Arpaio. That's why I've heard of that.
Yes, he's running for Senate right now, actually.
Wow.
Here. So I went downtown, they put me in jail, and there was even people in the jail that were using direct conversation on me, relaying information to me, the personal information that none of these people should know about my life, know about me. They outfitted me with an electronic ankle monitor the next morning so they could further track and monitor me, every move that I make. And I've had this ankle monitor on my ankle since then. For 8 months, I've had this ankle monitor on. So everywhere I go in town, you can't wear pants in Phoenix in the summer. So everywhere I go in town,
everybody knows that you're wearing a GPS
I've got this ankle monitor, and they just assume
you're a criminal.
That I'm some kind of convicted criminal, and I haven't been convicted of anything yet.
How big is that ankle monitor? It's very obvious.
I have a video actually on my YouTube channel of that also, and of how big it is. It's huge. It's not necessary. I mean, they can track you with a RFID chip at your credit card. There's no reason for this to be so huge. And they'll also set the ankle monitor off and tell me I'm in an exclusion zone. When I get to my front door of my home, when I'm driving down the street, it'll just go off and tell me I'm in the wrong area and to leave now. And then it won't shut off. I'll try to push the little button on the side to turn it off, and it won't shut off.
What does it do?
It alerts, it beeps, and then it says, "Warning, you are entering an exclusion zone. Leave now." And there's a video I took of that happening actually when I was just driving down the street coming to my house.
So obviously, if you're trying to get a job, if you're in some social situation, if you're in a restaurant even, this is extremely embarrassing.
People just stare at it. They stare at it, stare at me, give me dirty looks. They assume the worst. They assume that I've done something terrible when they don't realize that actually, I've spent 15 years in the military doing the best I can to, what I was told, fight for their freedom. These people that I don't know. They're the ones that I was doing my best to help, and now these people are looking at me like a criminal, and It is. It's tough to deal with. Um, can you hear me okay, Jason?
I can, yes. I'm just,
Okay.
I mean, it is, it's an overwhelming topic, Michael.
It is. Well, I mean, it is. It's you know, and there's so many parts to it. There's no way that I can fully explain to you what's going on. Um,
Well, what you've endured is far worse than what I'm experiencing, but some of the electronic interference I do believe is happening. And certainly, you know, for people who I don't know with usernames I've never seen before to be coming into the chat here and, you know,
oh,
repeating the same.
these folks are probably my perps, and we call them perps because they're perpetrators of this crime. It's kind of in the targeted individual community. We've come up with some of our own language. You know, for the things that happen in our lives. So I just want to jump to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. You're talking about you know, criminal prosecution of you, which is what they're trying to get to with me. People who are watching YouTube and seeing what's going on are aware of the individuals that are involved in this game, this false, you know, all of this manufacturing of false evidence. It's coming back around. Someone was in the comments here repeating this meme about me that's been around for a year and a half, that's been started by certain individuals that I don't want to give the publicity of talking about right now, but they keep bringing back the same story. No one has presented any evidence to support this story. The story is totally false, but it's the same narrative that they keep bringing back. And there's now 2 or 3 different stories that they're bringing up, including one that originated last Tuesday, where they're trying to link me to a very suspicious death, trying to insinuate or demonstrate that I had something to do with it.
That's exactly what it's. You know, I can spot a targeted individual from a mile away now, Jason, from some of the things that occur in their life, and I don't know if you want to identify as a targeted individual yet, but a lot of the things that I'm seeing throw up some red flags to tell me that you have been targeted.
I believe you might be correct.
I don't say that to scare you or to, you know,
no, I'm not
fear
scared.
factor. Yeah, you're not, and that's why you're such a great journalist, and you're doing such a great thing. But actually, that was one of my next notes here on my page, is character assassination. So what they will do is disseminate false information to family, friends, coworkers, and community. And when I say community, not just your people in your neighborhood, but the people in your social media community.
Yes.
They will and try to what they call paint a wall. They're painting a scenario of you to just make you look bad. And once information is put out to people that don't research, they just like the news does, they listen to that false information and they make their decision right there without doing any kind of investigation or research on their own.
Right.
Now you've been painted in that bad light, and you have to fend for yourself and stick up for yourself and prove them wrong.
Well, they do it, what I've noticed, Michael, is they do it in such a way that the very act of defending yourself, you're going down to their level. You need to talk about the nonsense and the things that they are talking about in order to defend against it. And then someone who is coming to Crowdsource the Truth to get serious news about corruption within the FBI, corruption within the CIA, how individuals like yourself, a military veteran, a firefighter, you know, people want information about that. But if they come to my YouTube channel and hear me talking about how people like my former associate George makes up lies about me consorting with underage people that I have never done and have never known, and linking me to suspicious deaths of partners of his who sought me out in a public venue where multiple video cameras were running and she herself was live streaming, how am I doxing someone who's walking into that location, making her location known, her voice known? Anyone who wants to do her harm would be able to identify her as being there. I put her on camera because I felt that this person was targeting me. I didn't know what her goal was. My computer screen is flickering right now. The YouTube video is shutting off. My monitoring of the YouTube video, which normally plays perfectly smoothly, is going black every few seconds. I have to refresh. Something is going on.
this is more and more proof of the electronic harassment, and that they do not want this information coming out from a credible person, somebody that can speak well and understands, what's going on, and can put this information out to people that'll listen. So, but what you said, how they tried to insinuate that you were doing something with a minor, this is a standard operating procedure that they do to almost everyone in the targeted individual community. They're
Yes.
called a pedophile. They're called a bank robber. They're called a the list goes on and on and on, and people will approach you while you're out in public, and they'll mention something about, all these pedophiles out here going crazy. You can get locked up for 20 years for that. Just starting a conversation with somebody you've never met in your life will just start this weird conversation about it. And after it happens 50 times,
Right.
it's not some weird person starting a weird conversation with you. You understand that these people have a script they're reading from, and they're trying to pass on some kind of threat. They're just trying to make you feel uncomfortable, that something's going to happen. And that's the next thing I have on my list here is setups for crimes. So provoking a target into a fight, putting extra items into a cart to make it look like you stole something, planting illegal items in the home or vehicle, for instance, drugs, weapons, pedophilia, porn on a computer, etc. So when I lived in Norman, Oklahoma, when I would leave my house, the same man would be walking towards my house every time I left. Now, when I got home, that same man was walking away from my home at the exact same time I returned to my house. And I thought this was just to intimidate me, gaslight me. But what I realized is it's very possible that this guy was going into my home, getting on my computer, going to websites that I would have no business going to, or something like that, and using my IP address to make it look like I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing.
Right.
I can't prove that. It's just an assumption. Right. But, why would, this happened for months and months and months, that same person.
Let me talk to you for a second about strategies that I've observed that I do have evidence to back these statements, and they're doing these things in such a way. So we've got this public display from my former associate who a couple months ago had this, breathless YouTube video about he intended to bring this Yemeni girl to the United States to give her surgery to help her with burns on her face. And he accused me of interfering with that operation. I had no knowledge of any such operation. We've seen no evidence since that video that he's actually carrying out such an operation. And of course, I would have no desire, no motivation, no possible, I just would not interfere with a child getting medical attention. So this was purely made up.
Fabricated, absolutely.
That's fabricated. And there was a threat made to me that if I didn't stop doing this alleged thing that I wasn't doing, that this person would reveal text messages that would somehow prove that I was engaged with this minor that he's described. And he went on to show text messages of a photograph from a magazine cover of a person that I never met, who I don't know if she was a minor or not, but I never met. The person was never in my apartment. And he put out all of this information. So now, flash forward to a couple days ago, someone comes on to the Crowdsource the Truth Facebook page and starts posting, very contentious, troll-like arguments with other people who are just trying to read information on the Facebook page. And this person advertises his website, which is promoting a film that he's got in development. It has various sort of websites that seem like wagering websites. So in my view, it appears that this person is advertising something on Crowdsource the Truth. And I deleted those posts and instructed him not to post anything directing people to websites that he controls where he's trying to achieve financial gain. So this person then starts emailing Kevin Shipp, very credible former CIA agent that I work with. Right. And he's trying to put out this story. Now somehow Sarah Westall has gotten involved in these emails. Sarah Westall had a person on her show last week who was like me, very small fish in Hollywood. Anyone can go move to Hollywood and start to try to get jobs on movie sets. That doesn't make you a Hollywood insider. okay?
Correct.
Working on 2 or 3 movies and then realizing, you know what, I can't make a living doing this, even 10 movies, doesn't make you a Hollywood insider. Sarah Westall seemed to misrepresent this person on her show, and this person even told me that he was made very uncomfortable by the title of the video that was totally not representative of his experience and his information. She referred to the guy as a Hollywood insider, that he was confirming reports of pedophilia. This was an individual who had made a dramatic narrative, a dramatization of real events, a fictionalized film about child trafficking, and he did it to raise awareness of this matter, but it wasn't a documentary, and this wasn't a guy who had names to name. So now Sarah Westall has gotten into this argument. Sarah Westall is someone who we know has had people on her program who are suing me, right? I'm being sued for $18.5 million by Robert David Steele, someone who claims to have been in the CIA. So that's a deep state sort of a situation.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's news to me. I've listened to him on a couple shows, and he had me fooled too. Wow.
Be very careful of Robert David Steele. He came onto this program and solicited $250,000 in states around the United States, including New York, without being registered with the New York State Bureau of Charities. That solicitation is felony charity fraud. When I exposed this, he sued me for defamation. Now, throughout the course of the many months that his lawsuit has been floating around in federal court, and he's promoted it on multiple YouTube channels, multiple websites, his lawyer has admitted in a document in court that they did in fact receive charitable contributions from individuals residing in New York, which is evidence. That is basically an admission that they've done what I have claimed. They've committed charity fraud. And if what I say is true, it cannot be defamation.
Now, this is what you're explaining to me is another standard operating procedure. They will put you into situations that are going to take your time, your energy, your money, and take you away from your mission that you are working on.
Correct.
Your goal, getting the information out, of feeding yourself, keeping yourself in a home. You're so busy playing counter move and protection that for yourself that you run out of time to complete your mission, you know. And it's been going on with me for a long time, and I didn't realize until the stalking became overt. And that's another thing too. When you are a targeted individual, from the time you realize that you've been targeted, you need to go back about 10 years. With most instances, maybe it's different with each targeted individual. What they're doing is they're monitoring you, surveilling you, putting people around you to find what makes you tick, how you react to certain situations, what bothers you the most, what you're most against, and then they start inserting these events into your life that one you have an emotional reaction to, and they're just going to take up all of your time and energy.
Michael, let me ask you something else.
Yes.
So this first lawsuit from Robert David Steele, which was basically nullified by his own lawyer's admission that they have in fact committed felony charity fraud in the state of New York, it was immediately followed by the brother of my former partner, who came out with that false story about this Ethiopian refugee. The brother of that individual came with 7 declarations into the Robert David Steele lawsuit, followed by his own lawsuit. And he has submitted motion after motion. This is one of the shortest that I'm holding in my hand right now. But, you know, it's becoming quite clear to me that what you're describing is exactly what's happening to me. A different flavor, different version. Maybe I'm not as accessible here without really overt activities. Like I'm in an apartment building in New York City. You'd have to circumvent the security downstairs to come up and get into the apartment, where I've got security on the apartment as well. So perhaps coming to my home and doing things is not so easy for them. Although they did send an individual who I believe is one of the individuals who's been involved in the organized harassment, to my home on a live stream. That individual instructed people to attack me.
Yeah, this is everything you're explaining sounds like standard operating procedure. And I know I keep saying that, but it's something that's been, you know, that in the military, we have for your specific job, they have a standard operating procedure book. It's everything you need to do your job, written at a 5th grade level. So basically, anybody can do their job by reading that book. So you flip the book open, you read through your standard operating procedures, and say somebody comes from a base in Florida to California, they will be able to just open that book and start right off where the last guy left off. And that's how they, you know, the tactics that are used in this targeting program are the same all over the world. And that's one thing I did want to mention too. This isn't just in the U.S. This is happening worldwide. Yeah, I'll just stop at that. But yes, you do. There are some red flags that tell me that you have been targeted with just some of the things I've heard you say, and even just some of the photos you posted, like that red car with the custom license plate. You know, I mean, it's a standard operating procedure, and they have unlimited capital and resources to do this. So the things that they do are so elaborate and so unbelievable that somebody would take the time and effort to think of so many small details to stalk and harass you that it's hard for somebody to believe, especially somebody that doesn't understand how much money is missing from the Federal Reserve, how much money goes into psychological operations like this. And I believe that the people that are targeted individuals now, we're a beta test. And you know, for the people out there that don't know what a beta test is, they test a small control group, see how that works with that control group, and then once they figure it out, get all the bugs worked out, then they move it on to the rest of the United States, if not the world.
Wow.
So
Michael, I think what we need to do right now is just wrap up so I can sort of reevaluate my technology situation here, and let's you and I have an offline conversation about when we can bring this back. At some point in the future, I want to join you there in Arizona so we can do a face-to-face and strategize about some other ways that we can avoid some of this disruption to try to get the message out. You've got a court date tomorrow, so we want to wish you best of luck with that and give you time to prepare anything that you might need to prepare. But let's stay in touch. And is there anything else you'd like to say in closing before we wrap it up?
Yes, I do. I just want to read a short list of names here that I want people to research these people. They're very important people in the targeted individual community, and I'll just be real quick with it, okay?
Yes.
Okay. So Dr. Ronnie Kildee, she was a physician, Finnish health director. She was whistleblowing on this program. She was murdered. Karen Melton Stewart, who I spoke about with the NSA, research her. Dr. Robert Duncan, he went to Harvard and worked for the CIA, and he developed some of the technology in this program that I didn't even speak about. Some of the really high-tech stuff that
we'll talk about that in a future show for sure.
Dr. John Hall from San Antonio, Texas. Research him. Stephen Shellen, Shellen. He wrote a movie called The Spark, and he funded this movie by himself, and it is an absolute depiction of what happens to a targeted individual. Romola D. Dahamara, I'm sorry I can't say her last name, but Romola D. is one of the greatest journalists and a great writer that has had a lot of these people on her show. The Ella Free Show, ELLAFREE. William Binney, I'm sure you know who he is. Kirk Wiebe, Kevin Shipp, you know Kevin, but people need to look him up. Gerald Sosbee, SOSBEE, is a former FBI agent who sent me his personal affidavit. Actually, Karen Stewart sent me her personal affidavit and signed it as well. And then researched Targeted Justice, is a group I volunteer for. They're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. They're putting up billboards all over the United States, They have a class action lawsuit, and they are a big part of what's going on. A guy named Jack Christiana won the first gang stalking case in Southern California, in Huntington Beach. He won. He's part of the Targeted Justice. And the last thing I want people to research is Richard Kane, C-A-N-E. He sued the federal government, the DOJ, the Barack Obama, all these people. They implanted his kids with RFID chips. He sued them, and I have videos on my YouTube channel talking about that. So I'll go ahead and end there. Hopefully I didn't say that too fast and people can...
No, that was good. That was good. I mean, it's interesting to see the persistence with which, you know, newly created YouTube accounts are coming into the comments here to say things that are not facts, not...
Oh, it's exactly what happens to us every single day. It happens to me through my eBay store. People will send me weird messages through my social media. I'll get weird phone calls. I mean, it's just a small part of this bigger picture.
You know, I'd like everyone to know that the only program running on this laptop right now is Google Chrome, and this is an extremely high performance, relatively new MacBook Pro, and nothing has changed about the software that I'm running on here. I've had 2, 3, 4 Skype guests at a time. I've shown videos. I run Google Earth while I have people on Skype. I am running only one camera right now. I've done as many as 4 or 5 cameras. So, you know, I like to be focused on facts and evidence here. And, you know, we've got these unknown people coming in. It's just so, it's sad, Michael. It really is sad.
It is. It's disappointing. It's really disappointing in you know, just humanity in general, that this many people would act as narcissistic psychopaths, to do anything that they can to stop you from getting the truth out and to psychologically harm someone. And this isn't all psychological either. There's physical. You know, there's people that there's probably 10 people that I know who have lost their lives either to suicide or they just said it was suicide, and they're personal people in my life that have passed away. Very, very, very strange incidents. I don't know. Do we have another minute?
Yes.
Okay.
Just
so
real quickly, what's the last name of the last person you mentioned?
Oh, geez.
Maybe people go back in the playback if it's too hard for you to remember.
I'm sorry, I don't remember the last
person. No, don't
person
worry. People will go back into the...
Okay. So just me personally, and I believe this is part of the trauma-based, they call it mind control. It's not like they're using a computer to control your mind. That does happen with some people, but I'm not even going to go there because it's too hard for a lot of people to believe, but they do need to research that. So my ex-wife, her dad died in a car accident on Christmas morning, 2002. My uncle died of a heart attack at age 55 in the middle of the night. He had a large inheritance that was going to be passed on to 2 other family members, and that did get passed on to them. My cousin Valerie, who is a little bit younger than me, who had the same family members that I had that worked for Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, she passed away in a car accident in Seattle, Washington, on the wrong way. She was the passenger and was not wearing her seatbelt at the time. My dad died after I started talking to my dad, asking him questions about what was going on. I had just visited him, his wife, as I was on my way to visit him in Lancaster, California, Palmdale, California. His wife at the time told him, if anybody shows up to this house, I'm going to shoot you in the head. So I couldn't meet him at the house. I had to meet him at a restaurant and have a conversation with him. I went back home to Fresno, and we had ended up getting in an argument. I called and I left a message on his phone, and I wasn't very happy with him. I got a call not much longer after that he had shot himself in the head on 7/7 of 2010. My ex-wife, who was my son's mother, died on my birthday, 2014. my niece, we all went to Las Vegas. My niece disappeared one night while we were in Las Vegas. She was 17 years old. I told everybody we were with, this is not okay for a 17-year-old to be running around in Las Vegas. We need to find her. All of them told me, don't worry about it. She'll show back up tomorrow. No big deal.
What?
I'm thinking, no, this is insane. How can you people say this? We need to be out on the streets looking for her, calling the police. So I took it upon myself. My ex-wife's brother tried to fight me because I was trying to call the police. He wanted to start a fist fight with me.
To find his own daughter?
To go, it was his niece. It was his niece also.
Even so, that's crazy.
Her dad wasn't there. Okay, we finally found her the next day. The story was she went to go meet some friend that she just went to go party with or something, and I didn't buy the story at all. Well, 2 years later, she's in Missouri, and she dies in a single-car accident that burned her body beyond recognition.
The 17-year-old?
19-year-old, a week before she was supposed to graduate from high school. I'm sorry, I'm doing my best here.
I understand.
So this has happened over and over. These are just the main things. You know, there's other people in my life that have been injured. They've had weird diseases, cancer, you know, over and over and over. And I'm not the only one. So many people that I know through the targeted individual community have had instances like this. And it's nonsense. And these people that call themselves elites, or that they think they're untouchable, they do these kind of things and think that they're going to be able to get away with it. And thankfully, I believe that Executive Order 13818 that Donald Trump signed in December of 2017 has to do with taking out this corruption. And since that was signed, thousands of government officials and CEOs have stepped down from their positions because they know that they will be held responsible for what they've been doing. And a lot of this comes from there, in my opinion.
Wow.
I don't know what else to say about that. I wrote down some notes talking about relatives that I've had that worked for different areas, because a lot of these people will infiltrate our government in higher up positions that are classified, and then things they do behind closed doors can never be found out by anyone. And I think a lot of the secrets that can be unlocked are behind some of that ridiculous classified status,
right?
Because they know they can hide behind it.
Of course. Michael, let's wrap up for now. I want you to take some time to calm down and get ready for your court appearance tomorrow. But let's definitely speak on Wednesday or tomorrow after the court appearance, and let's schedule your next appearance on the show here. I think you and I need to be exploring this issue much more closely.
You're absolutely right, and I am so happy. And I'm
yeah. No,
I'm getting a little emotional here because nobody will ever listen to us. And a good journalist like yourself that can help us get the truth out there is you don't understand, I don't think, how important this is and how much the targeted individual community appreciates allowing me to be on your show.
I appreciate you taking the time to share all this. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And that's from all of my friends, too, that are going through this.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we will speak again soon, and I want to thank everybody who's stuck with us through all of this craziness, and we're going to figure out a way to overcome it. Michael, good luck tomorrow. Thank you. Have a great day, and thanks everybody for watching.
Okay.